Hi, this is Warlow from Business Loan Services and welcome to my Friday Business Finance Bulletin, my weekly roundup of news, tips, ideas and strategies on raising finance and dealing with banks. So what have I got for you this week? Well, we're going to be looking at the sources or the different pots of money that businesses are tapping into. We'll also be looking at what is the real success rate of businesses when it comes to raising finance with banks. And also a quick review of a chat that I had with a business owner this week who was trying to get money from his bank. And in my business finance tip of the week, a clip from an interview that I did where I'm looking at the purpose of why you're approaching a bank for money. So let's start off with sources of finance. I was reviewing a survey this week carried out by Bibbys Financial Services. Bibbys Financial Services are one of the leading players in the invoice discounting and factoring market. And they went out and asked 1,000 business owners, where are you getting your money from? And some interesting results came from this. Now, first of all, top of the tree, 23% of businesses saying they access overdraft facilities. So it's still really popular, but getting increasingly more difficult to get overdraft facilities from banks. Why is that? Well, they're just giving you an overdraft limit and the banks don't like the fact that you can do with it what you want. But also from your point of view, an overdraft limit is not really the best way to do it because an overdraft limit is repayable upon demand. The bank can just ask the money back of you at any time. What's the next source? 14% of them saying they're using savings and money from families and friends. Now, the savings part, superb. You know, the less debt you have in the business, the better. If you want to use personal savings, it's a great way of growing a business. You're not beholden to a bank either. So, top marks there. Money from family and friends, well, as I mentioned in previous bulletins, a little bit more challenging. Yes, it's easy to get money from family and friends, but hey, watch out. The nature of your relationship with your family and friends can change if you ever default. So just bear that in mind. 13% of business owners getting money via loans and invoice discounting. So good source there. 7% of people using personal finance. That's credit cards or personal loans. So again, that's kind of more personal money injected into the business. And perhaps surprisingly, only 1% of businesses said they've used crowdfunding and peer-to-peer lending. Now, as you know, here at Business Loan Services, great fan of crowd lending and crowdfunding generally. So I'm a bit surprised that only 1% of those surveyed are using that source of finance. It's quick, easy and flexible and actually sits alongside banks and other forms of finance quite nicely. So just have a look at all those different sources and which of those can you use in order to finance growth. SME Finance Monitor Report. I look at this every quarter. It's a great independent survey that comes out every quarter that looks at the relationship between banks and also how businesses are financing themselves. The most recent one for quarter 1 2015 recently came out, and one aspect that I really always like to look at is how successful are businesses really when it comes to getting a yes from the bank. Now, in the latest report, they first of all asked how many businesses said that they thought that they were confident that they would get a yes from their bank if they approached them for finance. Well, 49% of businesses surveyed said they were confident they would get support from the bank. But what was the reality on the ground? Well, the SME Finance Monitor team then asked those that had raised finance over the last 18 months what was their success rate. And 76% of them said they actually got a yes. Compare that to the 49% who were confident they'd get a yes. There's a big confidence gap, a gap between what people think they will get and what they actually got. And there's a message there, and I've mentioned it before, do not assume you're going to get a no. Make sure you get out there and ask. How does that 76% split up? Well, perhaps not surprisingly, for straight renewals of an existing overdraft, 98% got their advance renewed. So that's quite straightforward. If you're asking for money for the first time, the success rate was about 65% for those people who had borrowed previously but just asking for a new facility. For those asking for the first time, the success rate was much lower at 55%. But all of those were substantially up on the same time last year. So clearly, banks are beginning to be more engaged and prepared to listen. So say the message is, don't assume you're going to get a no. Now, I had an interesting chat this week with a business owner. I just got asked by a business colleague to have a chat with this person. They got pushed back by their bank, and they're wanting to know a little bit more about alternatives. It's interesting. It's a startup, been going about 3 months or so, so still very much in the early stages. And they'd asked for £10,000, and the bank had said no. And in chatting generally about the various options, it came out that the £10,000 they need is really just the starter, just to get it going. But their real overall plan would be about needing a finance requirement of about £50,000. And here's the problem, I said to them. The fact that they asked for £10,000 means that a computer looks at it. It's the computer that said no, it's too small an amount. I said the mistake that they made and what they need to be doing was actually applying for the larger amount of £50,000. So I told them, put your business plan together and go and see the bank. And the thing here is that 50 grand, they are more likely to have a human being look at it. And so they have a better opportunity to sell themselves, sell the idea, get their credibility across, and more importantly, get across their vision and their passion. So the message, if you're going to put your deal in front of a bank, is don't think less is better. Sometimes more is better. If you do have a bigger plan and bigger ambitions, really go for the larger amount, because that will get you in front of a manager, not a smaller amount. So that's the lesson there. So, what about my business finance tip of the week? Well, here I want to share a clip from an interview that I did, kind of allied to this point I just discussed about the purpose of your request. What are you looking for the bank to support you on? What is it you want the money for? So, in this clip, let's just talk about a little bit about how mindset works with banks. So, let's go to that interview now. The next one now then is purpose. So, what exactly then are you going to do with the money? Again, what a bank does not want to do is just to give you a blank check, walk off, shake your hands and say, okay, we'll see you in 15 years' time when you pay the loan off. Yeah. They actually want to know what you're going to do with the money. And there's a crucial distinction for many business owners to realize. Banks are not willing to lend what I would call get me out of jail money. So a bank is not willing to lend today if you're in arrears on your tax, your VAT, your PAYE, your NI. Yeah. That's not business enhancing finance. Okay, it gets you out of a hole, but it doesn't actually move your business forward. Yeah. So banks today are really not willing to lend there because it adds no value to the business. Okay. They want to add value by lending money to you where it's going to significantly change your business in some way. So with the purpose then, they look at your plan and we look back on the interview and say, okay, this loan is going to be used to buy a piece of equipment. That equipment is going to add efficiency savings of 10%. That's going to improve the bottom line. Or it's going to allow them to move into a new sector. So that's value enhancing. Yeah. It may be that you want an increase in your overdraft facility just for general working capital. Again, that moves the business forward. It may be you want a loan to buy your premises. You're leasing or renting at the moment. You're great where you are. The landlord has come and says, we want to sell up. Are you there? All of that is great stuff. So the purpose is, does it add value to the business? Can be nothing illegal, obviously. Yes. So the bank will just check that it is a legal purpose behind it. Yeah. So again, the bank will just take a step back and think, yeah, it ticks the boxes there. We're lending for the right reasons.
And I guess they also want to know, can it be proved? Is there any way that that this is definitely going to work, and and make sure you've covered that off in the previous parts?
Correct. Yeah, we mentioned in the previous videos about provability. Can you bring pro forma invoices? Can you bring quotations? If you're buying a particular premises, in the business plan, you include the estate agent's particulars. Anything that can evidence that what you're saying is true and is verifiable will only enhance your case. So there we are. So the tip there is just make sure that you're approaching them with a value-adding proposition. It actually does something to move your business forward. So that's it for this week. Thanks very much for watching. And don't forget, there is now a podcast version. And if you are listening on that, well done. All you have to do to listen to the podcast version of this bulletin is go to our SoundCloud page or hunt us out on iTunes. And all you have to do there is just hunt for Business Finance Bulletin, and then you'll find us there. So thanks very much for being with me as ever, and I look forward to being with you again next Friday, and have a successful and profitable week. See you next Friday. Bye-bye now.